All right, welcome everyone. Today, we're going to skip the long lectures and throw you right into the action. Think of this as a hands-on training mission. We're going on what's called an escalation hunt, and, well, you're our newest recruit. So let's get to it.
So, I gotta ask, are you ready to become a threat hunter? Because that's the whole point here. We're gonna put you right in the driver's seat, in the shoes of a security analyst who's hunting down a pretty nasty threat.
Okay, let's make it official. Welcome, SOC intern. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to hunt down a privilege escalation attack that's happening across a few of our systems. You're going to track an attacker who's trying to get the keys to the kingdom, and this is your chance to see exactly how the pros handle it. So, here's the plan for our mission. First, we got to know our adversary. Then we'll check out our arsenal, the tools you'll be using. After that, it's time to execute the hunt. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with a debrief to see what we've learned. So, first things first, let's get to know the enemy. You know, if you really want to catch an attacker, you've got to learn to think like one. And that means understanding what they're really after. Their goal? It's something called privilege escalation. And trust me, this is the one critical step that can turn a tiny little foothold into a complete system takeover.
So what is privilege escalation, really? Well, think of it like this. It's the moment an attacker goes from being just a guest in your house to suddenly having the master key to every single room. They start out as just a normal user, but they find some trick, some vulnerability to become an administrator or root on a Linux system. And once they have that, they have total control.
And you know, this kind of thing comes in two main flavors. On one side, you've got vertical escalation. That's all about climbing the ladder, right? Going from a regular user all the way up to an admin. Then you have horizontal escalation. That's more like moving sideways, stealing the login info of someone else who's on the same level as you. Now, both are really dangerous, but for our mission today, we are laser focused on that vertical climb. And believe me, these attacks are happening all the time, on all sorts of platforms. Just take a look at a few examples here. On a Windows machine, an attacker might try to bypass that user account control. You know, that little pop-up that asks, "Are you sure you want to do this?" Yeah, that thing. Or on Linux, they might exploit something called an SUID binary, which is basically a program that's allowed to run with extra power. And in the cloud, man, sometimes all it takes is one misconfigured setting, and the door is just wide open. And the cool thing is, all of these techniques are tracked in the MITRE ATT&CK framework, which is kind of like the encyclopedia of cyber attack methods.
And this quote really nails it. Getting access to a system, that's one thing. But escalation, that's the moment an attacker goes from just being inside to truly owning your system. It's the pivot point. It's where a small, annoying incident blows up into a massive, catastrophic breach.
Okay, so how do we fight back against this stuff? Well, every hunter needs their gear, right? And for us, in our SOC arsenal, we've got two powerhouse technologies, EPP and EDR. So what's the difference between the two? Well, it's pretty simple. Think of EPP, that's Endpoint Protection Platform, as your shield. It's like your traditional antivirus. Its whole job is to block the known bad guys at the gate. But then you have EDR, Endpoint Detection and Response. EDR is your hunter. Its job is to find the threats that are sneaky enough to get past the shield, and then it gives you all the tools you need to track them down and kick them out.
Yeah, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? EDP stops the threats we already know about. EDR is all about hunting the new, unknown ones, which is exactly what we're doing on our mission. And that's why in any modern security setup, you absolutely need both of them working together. It's not an either-or thing.
So how does an EDR actually do its thing? How does it hunt? Well, it basically follows this five-step process. First, it just collects a ton of data from everywhere. Then, it uses some smart analytics to look for weird or suspicious behavior. After that, it checks what it found against a global database of known threats. And if it finds a match, bam, it sends an alert to the team, and sometimes it can even automatically lock down the threat. And that last step, response and forensics, that's where you, the intern, come in. The EDR hands you all the clues you need to piece together what happened.
All right, enough talk. Theory time is over. It's time to get our hands dirty. We know our enemy, we've got our tools, let's execute this hunt. This is where you actually get to put all this new knowledge to the test.
Okay, intern, here's the scenario. We've got live data feeds coming in from our Windows servers, our Linux boxes, and our cloud environments. And somewhere in all that data, there's an attacker trying to escalate their privileges. Your job is to cut through all the noise, find that one critical signal, and then show us how our EDR tools would light up and respond to it.
Now, in a real security operations center, the job isn't done until the report is filed. I know, paperwork. But it's absolutely crucial. This is the kind of stuff you'd have to deliver. A table of the attacker's techniques, another table showing the EDR alerts that went off, a detailed forensics report explaining what went down, and even a diagram of your response plan. This documentation is how the whole team stays in the loop.
So let's take a closer look at one of these. This right here, an EDR alert table, this is your bread and butter as an analyst. Just look at how organized it is. You've got the alert ID, which machine was affected, exactly what happened, how bad it is, and what we did about it. This isn't just a training exercise, this is exactly how real analysts track and prioritize threats every single day.
All right, let's pause the simulation right there. You've dug through the data, you've found the attack, you've documented it, mission accomplished. But now comes maybe the most important part of the whole thing, the debrief. Let's take a step back and talk about what we just learned and the skills you just picked up. You know, if this were a real internship evaluation, this is kind of what we'd be looking at. Of course, your technical skills are a huge piece of the pie. Your knowledge of escalation, how well you use the EDR data. But look at this, your documentation, your reporting. It's almost just as important. Being a great analyst isn't just about finding the bad guy. It's about being able to clearly explain what you found to the rest of your team.
So, having gone through this whole mission, congratulations are in order. Achievement unlocked. You've officially earned your Endpoint Threat Hunter badge. Seriously, you've walked through the steps of tracking a pretty advanced threat and showed you know what it takes to defend against it.
And hey, this isn't just some made-up badge. Look at the new skills you've just added to your personal toolkit. Things like EDR detection, privilege escalation, SOC analysis, incident response. I mean, these are the exact hashtags and keywords you're going to see on LinkedIn and in job descriptions. You now have a real practical feel for what these things actually mean.
And that's really what missions like this are all about. It's about building that bridge from just learning the theory in a book to actually being ready to start a career. This is your first real step toward becoming an EDR analyst, a SOC Tier 1 operator, or even a full-time threat hunter. This kind of hands-on experience, this is how you get there.
And that kind of brings us to a final big picture question to leave you with. We've seen just how powerful these EDR tools are, right? They can automate so much, respond at a blink of an eye. So does that mean the human analyst, a person like you, is becoming obsolete? Or do these tools just make us better? Do they amplify our human intuition and expertise, creating this incredible human plus machine defense? It's something to chew on as you continue your journey. Thanks so much for joining us on this mission.